Hello and welcome. It's always fun to get an inside look into how things are made. So I thought I'd give you a brief background into the Sleever Pro. I'd gotten back into collecting and was opening up some old boxes of cards, and obviously looking for some fun ones that had potential value as well as, cool cards from the past, and a lot are dependent on condition. Even from a fresh pack, a card might come out off center with soft corners or printing spots on them, making them nearly worthless. So when I'd come across a really cool card, I'd get super pumped. Like, we found it, we pulled it, this is part of the joy of the hobby. And then I would think about putting it into a sleeve to protect it, and that joy would instantly turn to worry. Am I going to damage this card? And early on, a lot of times I did, unintentionally damage some cards. And some ultra modern cards, like these, they're a little more forgiving and a little stronger. When you get back into some of the 80s and 90s cards, they're going to be a lot more fragile. The edges chip very easily, especially when you have darker colored borders. Nicks and chips become very apparent and can affect grading, turning a potential 10 right down to a 9. And that could be, hundreds or thousands of dollars difference depending on the card. So when I was initially sleeving them, I'd go really, really slow. But even then, I'd find sometimes I would nick the edges. And I'll show you in an exaggerated sound what that is kind of like. Now, obviously, we're not all jamming them in there, but that just, is a little bit of how the edge can catch even unintentionally, because unless you're putting it in perfectly, it's going to have to touch to fit itself in, and it usually does. So sometimes I damage things, even going really slowly. So I tried the trick where you pop open one side of the sleeve and then put the card in. So that helped a little bit. It still made it where, this edge could push up a little bit on it, or down here it could catch. But ultimately, when they were in there, this was now an exposed corner. So depending on where it was kept or stored, that's a risk to the future. And I also tried, the double edge where you kind of pop open both corners. That again made it easier to get in, but then a little tricky up here, depending on the side you put it in or how long the tears were, if they were even. And then, of course, in the end, now you have two exposed corners, so not very great. And, of course, thicker sleeves. More room, easier to get in. They did, though I still ran into that kind of edge chipping problem, and definitely damaged a couple older cards doing that, even going very slow, trying to be really careful. So that sometimes worked, but I was looking for something that was more consistent, and easier to replicate. So that's where the Sleever Pro came in and basically, solved all that, making it infinitely easier to put in, pretty much any sleeve, and consistently, easily, and quickly. So I got really happy about that, especially because when you think about what comes next, we have our semi-rigid card holder, and that's got its own special, methods and tricks and techniques to get things in there. And so the sleever takes care of that right in the semi-rigid. Along with that, it works awesome in your top loaders. It also works for your protective binder pages. And so I was really excited to be able to make that whole process easier. I definitely enjoying, finding, great cards now, because that's, a lot smoother to do. And I also wanted to make something that, everyone could enjoy. I truly believe the hobby is for everyone, and there's joy in it, at every age, every level of experience. And so this makes it great for the younger folks who are working with cards. They may not have manual dexterity totally developed yet, because it could be kind of tricky to pinch this the right way and get the card in. And even then, you're touching the face of the card, which you don't always want to do. And so this makes it easy even for, younger collectors to just kind of hold the edges and put it in, as well as for older collectors or folks that are looking for, a very stable, consistent, easy way to insert their cards and have fun doing it. So that's a little bit on the background, and the fun I've had, putting this together. But ultimately, this is going to be great for just finding cool cards, and letting that excitement from when you find them translate over into storing them away, and doing whatever you want to do next with them. So let's get pumped about finding great cards. And I welcome any comments, and I hope you get one and really enjoy it. So happy sleeving.